here in this one, we're going to be kind of diving into what it's like to be able to help maintain a routine, keep ourselves in a nice, healthy lifestyle, everything that we've built upon, even amidst all the travel. So Nicole and I, we were fortunate enough to be able to go on a lovely cruise. And when people think cruises, typically you think, oh, you're going to be in swimsuits, it's going to be hot, you're going to get some nice sun, you're going to come back with a tan. We went to Alaska, which surprisingly wasn't that far off, actually. I would say 9 times out of 10, I was actually hot and sweating a whole lot more than I anticipated. But anywho, during this travel, it was Nicole, myself, we got the little one, we got Paxton with us, and we were rolling 13 deep with the family. So naturally, there's a whole lot of dynamics and everything kind of going into that. So we just wanted to kind of discuss a bit what it was like in preparation, what it was like during, and just kind of how we went through all of that ourselves.
Yeah, and I think something that people talk a lot about with travel, whether it's like us, a cruise to Alaska or cruise anywhere or just a trip, you come home from your trip and you always feel like, crap, I have to like hit the reset button. I'm so out of my routines, things like that. And even with our trip with 13 people, a baby, going 4 hours difference in time zone, we managed to really come home and not feel like we had to hit the reset button. And so we wanted to kind of give you an instant look as to how you can travel, whether it's for vacation, work, sports, and not have to feel like you're starting life all over again when you get back.
Yeah, the 4 hour time zone change was, I would say, probably one of our biggest fears, at least for the little dude. But all in all, it worked out pretty well. He's transitioned pretty great. And so, yeah, I guess the first things first to kind of set everything up, what we did in preparation for that is kind of the best way to start. So, from that food perspective, which is always where I'm going to kickstart things, we wanted to make sure that when we got back home, we didn't have to then all of a sudden scramble and be like, okay, shoot, we don't have anything in the refrigerator because we cleared that all out. We haven't made any food because we've been gone and couldn't meal prep. What are we going to do? So we made sure and started, honestly, a couple weeks prior to leaving, starting to build up some of the freezer meals that we were able to put in there. So typically what that ends up being is we just kind of whip up an extra serving, an extra pound of food of what we're already meal prepping for that week in which we're doing all this preparation for. So what we would typically prepare for 5 days, we would then make for 6, 7, 8 days and then freeze those extra servings. Over those couple weeks, we were able to then accumulate enough in the freezer that we have landed and we are still in a good spot. We arrived back home Sunday night, Monday. I have no sense of time anymore, but we've had all that food ready to go. So we didn't have to worry then about spending an extra couple hours meal prepping. You're already tired. You're already going to be running around a lot. We didn't want to have to spend extra time doing that. So that I would say was probably the biggest thing from that food perspective of just helping set us up upon that return even.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, which that comes back to food, I mean, the meal prepping ahead of time was hugely helpful. It took a ton of stress off as we got home. But on the trip itself, this is like Jay's number one rule for all things: never leave the house without snacks. And we definitely did not leave the house without snacks, even though we were going on a cruise, which has unlimited food. So if you're going to an all-inclusive or if you're traveling for sports and, food's going to be included, it's still a really great idea to pack food that you enjoy, pack food that that nourishes you, fills you up, fuels you well, so that you can feel good while you're gone. And so for us, the main places that we were really thinking about where do we want to have this food at is travel days. When we were in the airport, we knew we could go buy food, but it was just nice to have something in our bag, especially with the baby, not knowing how long layovers were going to be and how much time we were truly going to have to go get ourselves some snacks. That was really helpful. And the second place that we really utilized those snacks was days off the boat. So all the food was included while we were on the boat, but one of the days we did a 5-hour excursion where we hiked a glacier and we went through these gardens and it was really awesome, but we had really no access to food throughout this 5-hour time that we were on this excursion. And so having those snacks and kind of planning ahead was really helpful. But I would say when we were packing, we weren't necessarily like, oh, this Monday of this excursion, we need the jerky and the protein bars that we had. It was more like, how much should we bring with us to make sure that we feel comfortable and that we're going to be nourished, whether that's with electrolytes or protein. to make sure that we're full and happy while we're away.
Yeah, and with that too, we also made sure that any of the key supplements that we were looking for, we also packed and brought with us. We didn't need to take a ton of stuff, but we wanted to make sure that those key things that we needed and wanted, we did take with us. So we did take some electrolytes, we did take some protein sources, we did take kind of like a multivitamin aspect of things, had some probiotics with us just to be able to help make sure that we had our gut and overall just body in a good spot to continue feeling good and adapting to those changes that come with travel as best as possible. And with those hikes and that long travel and everything as well, you want to make sure that you're well fueled, not only for the hike, but for the random blowouts that your baby may have on a bus. Paxton definitely threw us for a loop, essentially on day one, to where we, to put it short, we threw away that outfit. It was to that level. Dad worked up a sweat standing in the middle of the aisle of a bus for like 25 minutes straight, trying to not get poop everywhere. And I was a little hungry afterwards. So having snacks on hand comes in handy literally in every situation. So making sure to have those snacks, have some of those supplements and everything. Again, it just helps make sure that you're prepared. So if you need them, you have them. It's not something that you necessarily want to depend on, but it's something you want to make sure that's there if a situation arises.
Yeah, and I'll even say to that too. Like we did pack snacks, but on the airport coming home, we were like we were down to like one packet of jerky, and we had a 5 hour flight, and we thought we better go get something. And so we just grabbed a thing of mixed nuts and 2 protein bars, and that was perfect. So knowing too that you don't have to have your whole bag packed with snacks and taking up ton of space. Like there are resources and places that you can get it in the airport if you need to grab something on the go.
Yeah. And again, it's just utilizing the resources you have. There's always going to be some snacks that you can grab, whether it be at the airport or on the cruise at the port stops. But typically it's going to be a little bit of a crapshoot sometimes as to what the options actually are. And supply, demand, you're likely going to pay a little bit more for it. May not be the end of the world,
Totally.
but if you're able to kind of bring it with you, always going to be helpful. So those are the big things there. And especially too, when it came to the packing side of things, we wanted to make sure that we were as mindful and strategic as possible, just purely because we realized and learned very quickly, while a little individual, you pack a lot of stuff just for a child to be traveling. And he took up pretty much every square inch of suitcase, luggage, storage that we had. So we needed to be very strategic, very resourceful with everything there. And so it just takes that little bit of thought process, think through everything to be able to make sure that we accommodate and accounted for as much as we could. So the same thing then also kind of applied to that exercise and just that fitness and that movement piece. We knew that we did want to try to move our bodies there, whether that be going out on the hike itself or getting actually into the gym that we knew was going to be there. So same thing if you're traveling and using a hotel, there's typically going to be a workout room available. So we wanted to make sure that we set ourselves up to be able to utilize that. We didn't go in there saying, expecting and demanding that we were going to be exercising and working out every single day, but we wanted to make sure that when we had time, we were going to, make that a little bit of a priority and get in there when we could. Not a time or situation to where you're striving to set a PR or really push yourself or anything, but it's just continuing to maintain those habits and continue to just in general, get the body moving. It's that consistency piece as opposed to like consistency over perfection type of a thing. But we wanted to maintain all that consistency to be able to help ensure, again, when we got back home, we were able to hit the ground running.
Absolutely. And I think with that consistency piece, I think that also speaks a little bit to how we, handled food on the trip. So whether you're on a cruise or an all inclusive, a place where you have food that's constantly available to you, I think a lot of times people leave a vacation and I think, I got to go on a diet. Like I gained 5 pounds, I gained 10 pounds because all I did is eat this whole trip. And Jay and I laughed because when we came home, I weighed myself after the trip and I had gained like 3 pounds. And then 2 days later, I had lost those 3 pounds, likely because it was water weight from dehydration, traveling, things, timing of my cycle, those sorts of things. And it didn't have anything to do with what we actually ate on the trip. So, Jay, maybe you could just kind of speak to how we navigated unlimited access to food and how we still made healthy choices, but also enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah. So we definitely enjoyed ourselves. This was the first cruise I've ever been on in my life. I didn't know how it worked, but I've been told the entire time and took advantage of the fact that they said, you can order whatever the heck you want. It's all included. So I tried essentially anything and everything that was offered. You hand me a menu, you put food in front of me. If I've never had it before, yeah, I tried it. So I had just about everything that this cruise line had to offer, and it was awesome. Nicole and I, pretty much anywhere that we go, have a tendency of, we'll look at a menu, we'll look at what's available, we'll be like, okay, what are the top 2 things that we see here? And we split them. We're always down for trying new things. So when doing that, though, you do want to kind of be mindful of portion sizes. You don't need to eat everything that's set in front of you. But when consuming the meals as a whole, you still want to ensure that you're checking the basics, checking those boxes of, you want to make sure they have that protein source, getting adequate amounts of it. Make sure they have some of the fruits and vegetables included in there, getting adequate amounts of it, understanding where the fat may be coming from, and keeping an eye on that just for overall intake, but you do need that. And then the carbohydrate piece, keeping the portions in check. The carbs are something that typically in these situations are what contribute to that increase in weight that a lot of individuals experience upon their return. And it's not because consuming carbs causes weight gain necessarily, as much as it is the carbs are typically going to be provided in abundance. So that alone is likely going to increase just the overall intake, which, yes, can result in an increase in weight. A lot of times too, it's because the carbs are typically going to be cheaper than the vegetables, the fruit, and the protein sources. So any cruise line, restaurant, they're typically pushing those because nobody wants to have a customer leave hungry. So there's going to be an increased availability, likely an increased intake in all of that. And all of that contributes to increases in our carbohydrate stores in our body, which is referred to as glycogen. If you heard me say it once, you probably heard me say it a lot. If any clients are listening, for every gram of glycogen that the body stores, which again is that carbohydrate source, eat more carbs, get more glycogen. For every gram of glycogen your body stores, it also stores 3 to 4 grams of water. So you get a little extra carbs, a little extra glycogen. The body is going to be holding on to quite a bit of extra water. That water is still going to be inside you. You step on that scale. Yeah, it's going to bump that up a little bit. As you get back into your regular routine, as your body starts to use up those stores, that weight is going to come right back down. So that water fluctuation is going to contribute to that weight increase that you notice. You don't need to freak out. It's going to be okay. But it can take a little bit of time for your body to just work through that process out of things. So again, when it comes to navigating the food that is available, focus on those fundamentals. Make sure you check all the boxes that you're getting everything there. But absolutely, feel free. Try everything. Enjoy everything. I would say on average, going to the dinners and everything, our family and cousins may have kind of chuckled at us. I would say we had like 3 appetizers, 2 to 3 entrees every time, and definitely like 3 desserts that we were just kind of tasting, splitting, sampling. And it was great.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is like sampling. Like we order, our goal was really to try a little bit of everything while we were there. And we wanted to have a lot of seafood because it was fresh and stuff we can get at home. And we didn't eat like an entire serving. You know, I think there was one night we got like a s'more sundae, a creme brulee, and a piece of cheesecake or something like that. And I think we each had like a bite or 2 of each dessert, and it was perfect. It was all that we needed, but it gave us the opportunity to try the different things. And I think that that is like the fun part about traveling is that you get to try a lot of foods, experience a lot of different cultures. And while this trip wasn't the super like culture immersive experience, we did get to eat locally to the region that we were traveling in, which was awesome. And I think that you don't have to feel the need to consume everything just because you ordered something. Like having a taste is okay. You don't have to like eat to your stuff to your gills. If you can enjoy the food and not feel so stressed about having to lose weight or get back on your diet or all of the things that most people feel when they come back from travel on Monday.
And while you say we didn't necessarily have too many different like cultural dishes and things like that, we had escargot. So don't shy away from that. Don't forget that. I was not anticipating that. I did not expect that to come. And for those who don't know, escargot is snails.
It was
Included in that group
delicious.
of individuals that did not know what escargot was, Nicole's sister Carly did not know what escargot was. We ordered it, absolutely didn't tell her. Absolutely didn't tell her. It was just one of those things where it's like, hey, do you want to try this? I'm not going to tell you what it is, just like full transparency until after you try it if you want to do it. She was a brave soldier. She tried it, and it really wasn't that bad. It was pretty solid. I'm a fan.
I enjoyed it. I'd have it again.
So in that situation, again, especially if you have a partner in crime to be able to split some of those things with, it's very helpful to be able to keep portions down. And again, it's just being okay with having the taste of things. You're not consuming those items to be the primary filler of your meal. You're not consuming those to get full. The primary meal is still going to be that key focus. The fruits, the vegetables, the protein, the carbs, the fat sources. Those are the main things that are going to fill you up. The sweet treats and the desserts, we're consuming because we enjoy them and for the flavors. So we don't need to consume an abundance of it. We just want to try it. That is the exact same mindset when it comes to the beverages in these situations. So anytime when traveling, one of the biggest things I always recommend to people is if you are trying to be weight conscious, don't drink your calories, whether it be alcohol, juices, and things like that. Those things do not provide satiety. You're not going to feel full from consuming them. If you want to have them, consume them for the flavor, for the enjoyment piece. So especially for alcohol, if you find yourself in a situation where you're consuming that because you're thirsty, that should be a recipe for disaster. We're playing with fire in that scenario. So we want to make sure that we're staying hydrated, and any of those additional drinks and beverages that we're consuming, we're doing so because we enjoy it. So it comes back to just making sure that we're staying fundamentally sound of the food and the water that we're consuming to set that base. And then all those other complementary pieces are just coming along for the ride.
Absolutely. And I feel like food is really like a big challenge when traveling. But another thing we kind of already touched on this was just how we prioritize movement on our trip. And granted, this particular trip was a little bit more active in general. Like there was hiking and there was baby wearing and things like that we were doing just built into the trip.
There's a lot of carrying
But
packs. There's a whole lot of carrying packs.
yeah, I got adjusted today and man, my body feels so much better just from, all the carrying him and lugging his stuff around and pushing the stroller and all those things. But anyways, even if you're going on a trip that does not, have a lot of movement, heights, let's say, be creative, especially if you're traveling with kids, like just holding your kiddo on contact nap. Like you get a lot of exercise just from doing basic day-to-day thing, even if it's not the traditional, I'm going to put on gym clothes and go to the gym. Both have value. And I think when you're in a state where you're traveling, it is absolutely okay to just kind of take what the day is throwing at you, have movement when you can, but enjoy your trip at the same time.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, one of the examples that I personally utilize with this is on the cruise ship, I think we had 11 floors. Excuse me, 11 decks. Apparently that's what they refer to them as. A lot of times when I would go, if I needed a snack or anything like that, I would just walk to the 9th deck and just take the stairs, get a couple extra steps that way. It would work up a little bit more of an appetite to enjoy some of those snacks and things like that. And then walk myself right back down. It wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't anything intense. But yeah, it was a nice little addition just to be able to incorporate and keep that movement going. And so not only that, the snacks were great. Absolutely loved it. I miss those late night 10:30 snack rushes type of a thing, which again, you can eat after 8 p.m. as well. That could probably be a topic for a whole nother day. But yeah, please don't freak out about those types of things.
Absolutely. And I think in addition, we kind of like look at life in general, right? Like we talked about how we eat, we talked about movement, but the other really big thing that we did on this trip was focus on recovery. Any trip, in my opinion, should be a time to just kind of reset. Not so much that you're like, I have to start over when I get home, but kind of taking that reset and bringing it back with you. And even though I would say Jay and I both came home not super rested because we were keeping up with a 9-month-old, and that in itself is exhausting, we still felt kind of deeply reset in what we were doing. One of the things that I think we really had to focus on was sleep because one, we were traveling to a time zone that was 4 hours behind us. We had a baby who works very much on clockwork. And in Alaska, this time of year, it is sunny all of the time, like 18, 19 hours of sunshine per day. Sun would set around 11:30 p.m. and then would rise around 3:30 in the morning. And although we had a window with a window curtain, it was very disruptive, even just to be sitting at dinner at, 8 o'clock at night. And it looked like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like it was so sunny outside, or to go up to the upper deck late in the evening and you would still see the sunshine out. And so one of the big things that we did was we brought an eye mask with us. And I think both of us were like, we're not really sure how this is going to go because this isn't something we sleep with on a regular basis. But I think we both came to actually love it and really enjoy it. And it made a huge difference in terms of getting good sleep, and accent especially probably helped with this, but helped keep us on a routine to some extent where we were going to bed around the same time every night and then waking up at the same time in the morning. We weren't setting alarms, but being able to actually stay on somewhat of a schedule, but it was a relaxed schedule that allowed us to get extra sleep and kind of relax was really helpful.
With the one exception of the day you woke up at like 3:30 a.m. and just decided it was party time. So, there's that. And again, cool thing about a cruise ship is there's coffee available 24/7. I do not recommend drinking coffee and consuming caffeine 24/7, but sometimes as a parent, you gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, the sleep aspect is always going to be something to prioritize. And that kind of comes with that time zone change to where to be able to help that circadian rhythm, adjusting the light can always be help. So for us, we utilize the eye mask. For the little guy, we were fortunate that they did have some pretty solid blackout curtains, but we also packed in his monster suitcase of everything a, oh, what is it called? Just like a dark tent
Called the
type of a
slumber
thing.
pod. It's a tent.
Yeah. Well, slumber pod, sweet name. But essentially it was something that we would be able to pop up, encompass the crib, and essentially it's his eye mask without him having to wear anything. So again, it's just kind of that preparation aspect of things to where if there is going to be a lot of sunlight, we know he still needs to be able to sleep. And if he is not sleeping, we are going to be sleeping. So selfishly, we also wanted to make sure that he had everything he needed to be able to sleep as optimally as possible. So that was one thing to keep in mind. And then the other thing too is adjusting your meal times to that new destination, to that new time as quickly as possible can help regulate that circadian rhythm a little bit quicker and faster as well. So that's where on the flight, we had our snacks. We tried to time things up accordingly. When we landed, we tried to make sure that we had the meals at the hotel. And then when we got on the cruise and everything, accordingly, just again, to be able to right off the bat, rip the Band-Aid, whatever you want to insert phrase here, to be able to catch up, get ourselves into that routine as quickly as possible. And I would say for the most part, in combination to some of the different things that we discussed previously about just like travel stuff, we didn't really have a whole lot of jet lag. We felt pretty good. I guess I'm speaking for myself. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but felt pretty good on day one to be able to really, again, just hit that ground running.
Yeah. And I feel like the other big things that we really focused on for recovery purposes was staying hydrated. However, on the ship, that was probably our biggest complaint that there was really not a ton of available water. And I felt like the biggest complainer of all times because I kept assuming I'm so thirsty. And we had drink credits. And in our true fashion, we wanted to buy water bottles with our drink. We had 15 drink credits used a day. And rather than purchasing alcohol with our credits, we bought bottles of water. And I have no regrets to that. But staying hydrated was something that was really helpful. I think just helping us all generally feel better. And then the other thing I think that we did really a pretty good job of doing is stretching. And again, that wasn't even like in the gym per se, but in the evenings, like after we put packs in the bed, my parents had a conjoining room. So we were able to kind of keep the door open and go into the other room where we could have the lights on and we could actually quietly talk to one another. But we were up for an hour or two before we went to bed. And it was a really great time to stretch, hang out with family in just a more casual way. And, having a baby kind of comes with the consequence, I guess, of staying in a room more often than you would if you didn't have kids, where you could be out exploring other parts of your hotel or destination. But we really made the best use of that time and kind of use that to our advantage to keep our bodies feeling good while we were away.
For sure. I don't know if your parents look at me weird, but the number of times that we've had conversations and stuff where I'm just like laying on the floor trying to stretch. And yeah, being able to bend and touch my knees is great. I'm going to attribute my lack of range of mobility due to the fact that it was small cabins, and not to the fact that I just am not flexible. But we'll go with that. But yeah, we just did what we could, made sure to still get that movement in, try to keep the body feeling as good as possible, especially with, again, baby wearing aspect, man. Like, Paxton, I don't think has been held that much ever. That was rough on the return. Him getting adjusted to hanging out on the floor a little bit. But anywho, yeah, just being able to continue get some of that movement in, keep the body nice and limber, and just keep things moving.
Yeah, and kind of with what you were saying, I think, well, we did a ton of planning ahead of time to make sure things went as smoothly as possible, that we were prepared when we got home to not have to feel like we had to reset. And we also felt good while we were away. There were definitely moments where things didn't go quite as planned. Generally, as a kid who loves to be on the floor, doesn't like to be held, loves his stroller, loves his car seat. On this trip, he didn't like any of that. He only wanted to be held. And that's okay. That is just like how it goes sometimes. And so we both kind of got our workout in and maybe didn't get as much time independently to go do the things that we wanted to do on the boat, because he didn't want to be held by family members, or he didn't want to take his nap because he needed one of us. And that's okay. We kind of rolled with it, and we enjoyed the time that we got as a family and made the best of it. The other thing, as Jay alluded, was the infamous blowout. It will live on forever as such on the bus. And those are things you just can't prepare for. Kids will test you, push your boundaries. Even at 9 months old, when they don't know that there's boundaries to push, they will always be teaching you something. And so I think that just kind of is a good reminder of, no matter how much you prepared for trip and travel, things are going to come up and things are going to happen. It's not going to be perfect. And if you can just let go of the details and just enjoy the moment and laugh where you can and not worry so much about the scale and eat the food, it's going to be so much more enjoyable for you. And so I think if I could give you a tip or takeaway, that's what I would kind of, encourage you to do.
Yeah, and also, if you find yourself in a situation where you are having to clean up a massive blowout, if you have another family member that is taking photos of the entire scene, make sure you get those photos in the future to be able to recap it when it is lighthearted and you're actually going to be able to laugh about that moment. But yeah, I still haven't seen the photos, but I just recall hearing that while Nicole and I are elbow deep in diapers, Nicole's dad was able to snap some photos and just chuckling, as he should, about all that. So I still need to see those photos. Have you gotten them?
I have not.
Okay, so we're definitely gonna have to hit him up to find those, because that was a scene. That was a scene. But I would say too, one of the challenges, the little obstacles that kind of popped up that I wasn't anticipating, was that workout aspect of things. I had the opportunity. We were there for maybe 7, 8 days. I have no idea. Made it to the gym, like the actual gym, twice. I don't know why it didn't click with me. Working out in a gym, one thing. Working out in a gym on a boat, a whole nother thing. The treadmills were all facing the water. I didn't like that, especially the very first day. Was able to go out and get in there. We had some of the roughest waves of the entire trip. And so when you're trying to walk, jog, run in a relatively straight line on a treadmill, yet you still see everything just kind of going up and down, your stomach's going to be doing somersaults. So didn't necessarily like that. But then also when trying to lift, depending on where you're at in that up and down aspect of things, the weight either felt surprisingly light or surprisingly heavy. So I had no idea necessarily if I was able to maintain my typical workout strength or if I was crushing it or super. No. So yeah, that was just an interesting factor. So anyone going out on a cruise, just being mindful that whatever weights you're grabbing for your workout, just be prepared. It's going to fluctuate a little bit depending on the weather. But yeah, all in all, I would say it was great. Always make sure, pack extra snacks, have the electrolytes and everything like that to be able to keep on hand. And on that note too, to circle back to it, yeah, I don't know if this is like a universal thing, but no water on the cruise is absolutely mind-boggling. They had big old signs and everything too, saying we could not refill our water bottles in like the cafeteria, the meal room area. My mind was blown. I was just like, why are we doing this? And when getting water with our credits, it wasn't like the plastic bottles of water. It was the boxed water. It was the cans of recyclable water because they said they wanted to be green and eco-friendly. If we want to be green and eco-friendly, why can't we just reuse the water bottles that we brought in the first place? I digress. I'm not bitter, but yeah, just try to make sure that you keep those things on hand, control what you can control. And again, rule number one is just have fun with it. And we were blessed to be able to be in an environment where we had 4 generations of the family together, which is just absolutely mind boggling every time I think about it.
Yeah, we're really grateful for the time that we were able to have with our family, and it was just really special to have 4 generations together, and not just together, but like a week of traveling across the country and going someplace we had never been before, and it was just a really special experience. So thank you for letting us share a little bit of the insight of what we did for our trip, what we learned from our trip, and we hope it's helpful for you as you get ready for your next trip, no matter what it's for. And if you have questions and want our help or tips, let us know. We're here. Give us a follow on Instagram, comment below. But happy travels, and yeah, thanks for tuning in.
See y'all later.